Hi everyone, it's Deb from Project Life Deb's Way again. I've got a different sort of layout for you this time in my process tutorial. I'm going to do a fully masculine layout because these can actually be quite difficult to do because you can't use a lot of flowers and things like that and all the extras, so you are quite limited with what you can do with the male layouts. Now the line that I'm using is from Uniquely Creative and it's Among the Gum Trees. Now this particular paper line didn't have a lot of true vibrant colors and things, so I had to actually do a little bit of stenciling and add some texture to my layout. I did go into my stash for a lot of tickets and things like that that you can actually use. And don't forget, I have got my cheat sheet up on my Facebook group and also my web page. And I'll put the links in the comments below the video for you, so that if you want to check out the papers and things and where I've cut, if you're following my videos, that'll be there for you. And to give you a sneak peek of the layout, that's the one page. Now I did do the same type of layout on this sheet because I had mainly portrait photographs, and I do give directions on how you can just use a different sheet. And if you have a look, it's just a plain sheet, and I've put the two pieces of side by side in that one sheet, and I will show you how I actually do that if I use different cards for a back-to-back layout for you. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like, and do leave me some comments, because I do like to read comments on, you know, if you want anything in my videos or anything else. So I'll give you a sneak preview of all the papers that I have used and etc., so you've got some clue if you're using a different line and different papers. And everything else if you're just using my layout as a template. So let's get on with some fun. This is a quick look at the papers that I'll be using. I'll be using this one with the horseshoe mainly for the background pattern here. This one here, I'll be using this piece here, in here, and this cutout here. This one I'll be using here and this corner here with the papers. And this one was just a background color sheet that I've used a little bit just to give a little bit of color. This was a 3x4 cut apart sheet, and I do use this one, this one, this one, the cutout here, and this one here to do a lot of my paper layering. And this is the cut apart sheet, and I used some of the words at the top, some of these words here, and quite a few of these cutouts, and I used also the ephemera pack. And this gives you a look at the papers that is in this line. It was a very difficult one to use because the papers haven't got a very in-depth color, so I've introduced an olivey green cardstock just to add some color to the background, and I used black for my photo mats. Now the other thing I did add, I have got some burlap which I've actually cut strips and actually frayed the edges and that to give me some texture. I did a little bit of green stenciling with a stencil with some green ink as well. Now the other thing I did add, which is something I really love, you can actually get stitch stamps these days, and I use these a lot. And I just put some stitching onto my cards, once again just to add a bit of colour and texture to my layout. So that's what I've actually used, and I did use a few of chevrons that I've got in chipboard, but if you don't have those, I do actually give you some tricks and things on how you can make these chevrons yourself out of black cardstock as well. So let's get on with making our cards. Okay, on to our card number 1. This is what I class as my title card, e.g. eye candy card. Now I've edged the edge of all of my, just distress the edges with my distress ink, which is my normal ground espresso, with my dauber that I've used. I'm going to use a bit of the archival ink. Doesn't matter if you use your distressed, if that's what you've got. And I have just got some stitching stamps. If you haven't got that, you can do it with a pen. And I'm just going to put, to give this some more texture, I'm just going to do some stitching. Now if you've done what I've done and you've inked the edge, just put some paper down so that you don't get any ink on your other part of the card, and just butt this up and just get some stitching lines done. This is one of the stamps I use quite a bit. It does come with lots of different stitching lines and things, but there's plenty of stamps up there that you can actually get with stitching, and it really is one of those that you use on and off once you've got one quite a bit. Now this one here came from the die cutting sheet, this one here, and it's right up into this corner, and all I did was just cut the actual pieces. If you don't have that die cut sheet, you can just add some journal papers or whatever you've got in your stash to get that done. Now I am not putting any foam tape or layering with these, they're all going absolutely flat. Now before I put this one down, I am using some of the burlap, and I've just frilled and taken some of the edges off to keep that into place. And I will put a piece of tape to keep that well and truly stuck into place. And as well as tape, I might just put a tiny bit of glue, if I can get it to work. Just to make sure that it all stays into place. I'm going to pop that down next to my stitching like that. Then I can pop my piece of note and stick it with one side. Don't stick the other side down because we have got things to tuck underneath. Now I've got a fantastic little awesome which came off of the front page with the cut apart sheet for that paper line. and I've used nearly all of those. I've just cut them out because there wasn't much ephemera that I could use with this layout. I've had to really improvise with this because a lot of it was farm machinery and things like that, which of course didn't go with my theme. So I've got this awesome here, and then I am going to attach the 70, and I don't want to really show the numbers as much, so I'm just sort of going to poke these underneath before I really do stick them down. And I just used a little bit of twine on my labels to add that rustic look. And then this tag, I'm going to cut a little bit more off of this tag. I'm going to just slide that in like so. So we'll just put some tape on that. And the great thing about this is I'll be able to use this on one of my other cards. So I'm going to offset them and get them all stuck down nicely. I think with this I'll bring this slightly out further. And stick that all down. Now this here came out of the ephemera pack, and this came off of one of the cut apart sheets, which I've just sort of cut round to match the same, and I cut the little inserts inside the letters there, and I'm going to put the best life here, and I will stick these down with glue. And one of the reasons I decided to use some stitching is because of the stitching on this tag, and it will just add a little bit of life to those papers which are quite flat. So I'm just going to stick my wording down. Now I haven't decided what colour to do my arrows, and looking at the black print and looking at on this card, they're actually just not noticeable. So what I'm going to do is colour them black. Now you can use that with ink, texture. To save my hands from getting absolutely filthy dirty, because if you do this with ink you do tend to get ink all over you. I'm just going to use a black texture, permanent texture. It saves me having to clean my hands after. Now I really do, these are chipboard chevrons, but you could actually cut your own chevrons from cardboard. Now to do that I'll give you a little demo that in the next video. That's just after making this card, and I'll just get some chipboard and I will make some of these chevrons. They are very easy to make. Okay, you can't have the ones with the holes in, but you can have different size chevrons. And just attach them with some glue, and once again it's just giving a little bit more texture. And make sure with your arrows that when you put your arrows in, they're not pointing off of the page, so that they make your eye follow your cards. Because this is the top left hand corner, it makes your eye come into your page. That's a little art trick, is to watch where the eye goes. So there we have our card finished. Okay, here's a little video on how to make your little chevrons. I've got some black cardstock here, just some of my, and I'm going to use a white texture so you can actually see what I'm doing. So I've measured down on a card like this, 1 inch. Then down the middle I've ruled a line 1/2 inch, halfway, and then I have done 1/4 inch spacings. Now the idea is when you're doing, and then just rule very faintly in a pencil where those 1/4 inch spacings are. Now to get your correct chevron, start from the top and you go down to the second line. So you go from the top to that second ruled line. Make that thicker so you can actually physically see, like that. Now what you have to do now is in between the 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch, put a little dot in like this, and that is where your next chevron. So you go from there down to the next 1/4 inch line and down again. Put your dot and draw your lines like so. So you'll end up, just keep following that system, dot, line, dot, line, and that will give you your correct chevron. So when you're cutting, just ignore the top one, just cut down like that. Turn your card round and cut. And there you will have your chevron, and then all you have to do is just cut it off straight, and that will give you so cut from point to point, and that will give you the same shape chevrons. Now for your smaller ones, all you have to do there is just cut straight up and then cut the other side off, and you will end up with your smaller chevron. And what you can do there, because I've got one that's got a hole in the middle, you can grab one of your other ones that you've cut, corner to corner, just cut inside and you will actually find you have your smaller chevron, and then you have a larger, thinner one as well. So then what you can do with that one is just make your chevrons like that. So there you have some really nice chevrons cut very, very simply from just your cardstock. If you aren't as lucky as me and have some chipboard ones. Now this is card number 2, and I've just got my 6x4. Now this sheet here came from this sheet here, and I have cut this piece from here, just at the bottom there, to give you a clue where it actually come from. Now I've really heavily edged this, and by doing that I've actually just laid it flat and go over the edges to give it some color, so it will actually, when you put it down onto your piece, it will actually really stand out and have some texture. Now I'm once again going to put just a tiny bit of stitching just down in this bottom corner, just like that. Just put some stitching on it just to give it some more texture. Now this particular one is just slightly smaller, and I think that is 2.5 by 5 3/4. And I'm just going to pop that right over and have that little border all around. Now my cutout came from the cut apart sheet, this little piece here. I've just cut that one little floral out, which will be going up the top, and I've got my photograph. Now I've got a true 3x4 photograph, so what I did, I just popped it down onto some black card and virtually just penciled and cut it out, or just eyeball it and cut it with your scissors. And the same goes with this, I just virtually put it on there and cut it with scissors. How you do that is you get your little bit of green card. I actually mount my photograph onto that card so it won't move around, and you just want that little tiny border to match up with your photograph. And I am a bit naughty, I tend to get my scissors and I will just cut a nice straight line all the way up, and use a nice long pair of scissors with this, because you'll find you'll get your straight lines better. So there we have our card fully mounted, and I find that to be easier than trying to measure your cards, because that way you get it to be absolutely perfect fit every time. Now this little piece of the card I want down in the bottom, and if you notice, this now shows up, so I'm going to move that photograph just slightly to the off center so I can actually see that stitching line. And just pop that onto your card. Just leave a little border, sort of similar to the border here. And then this is going up in the top, like so. Now when I was doing this, I did my labels a wee bit too big, so I'm going to put that up the top like that. Personally, I would have had it a little bit smaller. You could have put it down the bottom, but I think because I've done it so large, I'm going to pop it up the top. Like so. And there we have a very easy card finished, but you can actually see how you needed that darker to actually show that piece of paper up underneath, because with this paper line most of the papers were a very similar color. There was nothing really quite dramatic except for the blue, and of course I wanted to use the green, and of course I don't tend to use the blue and the greens together. Now on to card number 3. Once again I've got a true 3x4 photograph here, and I've done exactly what I did last time. I've just cut the black cardstock out with just a little frame and then done the green exactly the same, and just mounted them one on top of the other. Now this little piece here is a 2 1/4 by 3 3/4, and I did some stencil work with just some green ink, so just grab a stencil and just add, it's to add a little bit more texture again. And I think with this one I'm going to add just some stitch lines down the whole thing to give it a bit of a border. So that goes up the top, and I've distressed all the edges in brown with that just to make it stand out that little bit, and that goes up the top. Now once again your photograph just goes into the bottom. Leaving a little border at the bottom. Now the cut aparts here, I've just got the 50, but I don't want any ribbons put on that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hide and just have the top poking through. So what I'm going to do here is start my layering. So I'm going to put the circle down underneath. Then I'll put the little flower, and this was cut from the die cut with all your little die cuts. Okay, that needs to come up a little bit. So put that right to the top, because you want to show as much of that waratah as you possibly can. And I'm going to stuff a ticket just poking out from the side. And this came from the ephemera. Just going to poke that in. And there we have another card finish, and as you can tell the stitching just sort of finishes that card off. Now here's card 4, and you just have your 6x4, which is taken from the brick paper, and it is just cut from here, your 6x4 from that sheet there. And what I have done, I've got my ink and I've inked the edges down the two sides, but this part here I've actually really heavily gone right into that card, particularly at the corners, and made this side really, really dark to make that pop a bit. Now I've got a true 3x4 photograph, which once again I've just popped it, mounted it onto the black card, and for the photo mat, and just cut around it with my scissors. Now the piece here that I have got of Hessian, I've just cut an inch strip and I've made it the full width of the 6x4 and just frayed the edges a bit. I'm going to take a little bit more off this edge here, one more, to give it a bit more frayed. Now I'm going to glue that physically with glue, because tape won't get that down, and put it just underneath the halfway mark. Now when you're putting your tape, put your tape a little bit down for your photograph so you can tuck things behind, and that is going to go down the bottom right in the middle. Now I've got a lot of this came from my stash, and there's that little part of that one that we cut down, and I've just put note on there. So we are now going to just layer these. I will put a bit of tape on all of them, so when I'm happy with their placement I can just rip the tape off and have them all stuck. Now as I said, this paper line didn't have much ephemera with it, so I've had to go into my odd ticket boxes and ephemera for journal pages and things like that, just to supplement what I was given in that kit. I think we'll put this on the top there. So sort of just tuck your tickets higgledy-piggledy like that. And once you're happy, start from the bottom ones and work your way down to the photograph and start attaching them to your piece. If they're not right, just sort of shift them around until you get them to where you're happy. And there we have another simple card finished. Now we're doing our 4 little landscape 3x4 cards. Now here I do have what I class as my photograph mats. You would actually cut your olive green card to a 3x4, and then you would cut your photo mat to 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 and have your black photo mat with your photograph, so that it will look like, there's your 3x4, your black photo mat, and then your photograph on there, except of course your photograph will be landscape orientated. But because I didn't have enough large photographs that I could work with to get a 3x4, I've had to improvise. So I've just put my little tiny bit of photograph on there on my black backing, stuck it to my green 3x4. I've put a piece of paper in and just decorated both of those to give me my photos. In the old days I didn't do many photographs and etc, so I had to make do with what I had. So now we're going on to our other, what I class as eye candy cards for our 3x4s. Now I cut a 3x4 piece of paper, and if you have a look, it is come from this sheet here up the top because it had some staples in it, and I've just done a little bit of the stenciling with the green ink just to add some texture for that. I used one of the cutouts from the cutout sheet, which is this one here, and I have cut a little bit of the Hessian, the about. I also found some of the cutouts for the little bottle brush there, and I think that came from this cut apart sheet here, just here. I also had I'm making this my title card. So what I have done there, I have just got this. Now I think with this title card I might put a little bit of stitching on once again, just across the top. So this goes down towards the bottom of the page, so we'll just attach that on the bottom. Like so. Then I've got the little bit of Hessian, which once again you need your glue to attach that, which I have just cut enough to fit over and frayed all the edges. My about piece is going just on the top, just have that sticking out, and then I'm just going to drape, and I think I want that about, if I can get it off, over the other side. Okay. And then I'm just going to drape my little bottle brushes down, and I'm going to put my name tags. Now with my name tags, I'm just going to edge these with my brown. Quite often mail layouts are quite difficult to do because you haven't got a lot of fillers like you have with other layouts, because you have flowers and all sorts of things that you can use for, but complete masculine cards, unless you use cogs and gears and that sort of thing, it can get very difficult, which is why I thought I would actually do one with a paper that didn't have a lot of ephemera and that you could use, so you could actually physically see what you can do. So I'm going to stick all these down with glue because I've got the hessian there. As you see, that makes quite a nice title card. Up and finished. And of course we have our two photographs. So they are coming down like that. Now our other card, which is going to go in here, I have got my 3x4 with cut from this paper here, and then this one came from the cut apart sheet here, and it's this one down the bottom. So we have got our 3x4, which I'm just quickly going to edge. And I accidentally cut this one, so we're going to edge that one. Now this one I want to be really edged, so I'm going to just give it some more depth by really distressing it up. Now the reason why that is so that it actually shows up when you put it against the other card to give you that actual physical border. So we'll go ahead and we'll stick this one. Now once we've stuck that down, take the tape off. Now with this one, I have got lots of ephemera that I've got out of my spare ticket box, and these were cut from odd bits that I found any flowers with, and I think this was on one of the cut apart sheet, I think. Now what I want with this is I was going to just put these into the middle. So I'm going to glue them down. I cut it a little bit short, so I'm just doing it edge to edge. So if you cut a piece and it's about 3/4 inches wide, and just cut it. So there I am going to put this underneath, and then put the hessian on the top. think I might put that one underneath. I'm using glue because glue, you can actually sort of move things. Then this ticket here I will put here. Well, I couldn't find cord, so it's going on without cord. The joys of making a live video. So we're just going to stick that down, and then my two little cutouts I'm going to pop on as well. And then I've got a lovely little black making memories, and these come off of this sheet here with the words that are all down here as well, and they're here. I'm just going to pop that on the top to give me some layering. And when I find my cord, I will actually make a little bow the same as I've done here to match. So that will sit like that, and that will give you your layout of your 5 cards. Now we're starting on our right hand side layout. Now with this particular layout, I'm going to be doing a portrait orientation similar to the left hand side, because I've only got all of my photographs were all portrait. I had no landscape photographs whatsoever. So that I could get my photographs bigger, I decided to do my layout this way, which is unusual for me. And at the end of this video, I'll show you how I insert these into my pages if I have a different card layout on the next page underneath. It is quite easy. So what I'm doing here, I have got my card 3 3/4 by 3 inches, which I've done a bit of my stencil work. Now I also think putting this down, I'm going to put my photograph up here. So I'm just going to lay this down, and I might put my stitching stamp on this. Now I've really heavily distressed the edges of this to make it quite gungy, and I've really done the edges very dark on this card as well. And I've got a few bits and bobs. This came from the ephemera pack, and I've just tied a bow. This came from my stock of little papers and things, and this was from the ephemera pack. So I'm going to put this at the bottom here. So I've sort of just laid it out as I want it, like that. So I'm going to just leave that like that to do. So I'm going to put my photograph here at the top. Now I personally think looking at this, I think I might just put some stitching here. So once again, I'm only going to put a little bit of stitching. So I've just inked my stamp just a little tiny bit, and then the end just like that, just to add that little something. And I've been using this archival ground espresso for my stamping and things, and I absolutely love it. It actually stamps slightly different to the distress ink, and the great thing is if it doesn't smudge. It really does set. I'm really very impressed with this set, and it came with black. It also came with the hickory smoke and the vintage photograph, so they're the most popular colours, and you can get your ink refills with this. I bit the bullet and actually bought these because I fell in love with my black archival ink, and I absolutely love them. They are, and the black with this, particularly this black, it's not it's a really true black. It's not a blue black, it's absolutely a black when you stamp it. So if you've been thinking about getting these, they are worth adding them to your stock if you think you've got everything. So we're going to put our photograph in, and this is a true 3x4 photo mat, and I've cut my photograph down roughly 1/4 of an inch on both sides to give me that 1/8 of an inch border. I'm just going to pop that down, and so it's in the center. And then my ephemera, I'm going to put my 2 pieces in and just twist my number so it's odd, and then stick it like that. Now this one here, I am going to raise that tiny little bit, but I don't want it raised an awful lot. So I'm just going to get some of my cardstock, and I'm going to stick that on the back like that, and then just put some more tape. I even might do 2. If you had some really thin cardboard, that would be good too. Okay, there we go, and that will give it a little bit of raised area. Slant my number, stick my ticket down, I'm going to put my little I've just put a little note on there so it looks like it's a bit of note paper, and there we have card number 6 finished for you. This is card 7, and I've got a true 3x4 photo mat, which once again I've just trimmed my photograph to fit. And this card doesn't have much layering, but I do have my piece of burlap, which I've just frayed my edges. So all you do is you just pull a thread, and as I said, you do need your glue for this. Just double some glue on there. Now this I've put just on the edge, And this paper has come from this top sheet here. You've cut this one for the last one. It's just right next to it here, so you've got your bit of leftover print there. Because make sure that you don't cut this little tiny piece here, because you will be using that on your 4x3 cards that are coming. So what I did here is I have actually put my photograph down the bottom here and slightly across, because if you remember rightly, we use some of these little labels on the other side, so you need to match up what you've done on the other side. So I'm just going to put that on its side just to add some texture. And here I've got one of the circles that came from the ephemera pack in here. I'm just going to slip that in. Once again, I've just done my little string there. Now to hide that number, I've just got some of my tickets which I've just trimmed off a bit to make it actually fit. Stick that down, and then I've got another one of my little ephemera pieces which I'm just going to tuck behind, and I'm going to lay them all down. And I did a little bit of stenciling up in this top corner as well, just to give me a bit of texture with my paper. And there's card 7. And once again, this is a very, very easy card because the paper's had so much texture, and it's got a little lizard here, and the paper here, as you can tell, we've cut some here. You want to go to the other side and cut this piece out here by a 6x4, and what you want to do is just get the lizard down on the bottom. If you don't have this particular paper and you're using something else, just get a little bit of ephemera to put down in this corner. Now I've got a true 3x4 photo mat, and I've done what I've normally do is I just put this down and I cut or as I said, you can measure it out, and you just want that tiny little green border all the way around. Now this photograph here is going to go up in the top. You can cover your little lizard, because in the pack they do, in the cutouts, they do actually have a lizard on the one of the sheets in this kit, which is here, so you can actually cut that out. Now I have actually put that onto foam tape up the top of the lizard. Now what I'm going to do with this is, because it is very flimsy, I'm just going to attach a wee bit of glue on his tail. So we've got the foam tape at the top. Now just stick his tail physically down, and then stick your lizard with your foam tape like that. Now I also had some wording. Oh, and I haven't stuck my photograph down. Does help, doesn't it? If you so I just lift Mr. Lizard up and pop. Because it's a male, they had the word here, great guy. So I'm just going to cut that out. And just pop that down. Because I've got some of the making memories that I've put there, you need to match something on the other side. And there we have a very, very simple card because your paper did the work for you. This is a simple card as well. So this is card number 9, and I cut this sheet from just down in this bottom corner so I'd have some sort of action going on with the paper. And this piece of card came from where you cut the last card from. It's just that strip that's running next to it. And I've really gunged that up. So that is going to stick on our card with the flower pointing downwards, and just pop that on with your borders all around. And that card is, I think, 1 3/4 by 5 3/4 from memory. Now this is a true 3x4 photo mat, and your photograph with this one is going to go the top, towards the top. So sort of center it slightly offside. Like that. So you've got the same amount of border here and here. Now the words and this piece came off of this piece here, where I've just done grand and I cut the part off, and that's where your best word for the number 1 card came from. Now what I did with that is I just snipped it around and sort of cut into it so it looked like the words that came out the ephemera pack. And what I want to do here is I want to put that here, grand. So I'm just going to take that straight down like that. Now this little piece also came from the cut apart sheet, which is here. I'm going to stick that as our bottle brush does and just hang that down. Now if you haven't put your photographs in, just put your tape here and tape, and just take the little bit off and leave your paper on your tape so you can slide your photograph underneath. Now I've also done a couple of the little chevrons to match what we've done on the left hand side. So if you have chevrons on 2 cards, you need chevrons on the right hand side too. It just makes it even on the eye. There we have our little chevrons. And how easy was that card? Very unlike me, my card 10s, my little 3x4s, I've done it completely different to what I would normally do. Because I only had a little tiny photograph left to do, I've had to sort of do a more title card and that. But if it was you, you could actually do 2 photographs of your 3x4 photographs like normally, and just have 2 eye candy cards. Now the cutouts I have actually used are these ones here, and they came from this sheet here. I've cut this one out. I have also, from this sheet, cut this piece out and the tree here as well. They're the 2 pieces that I've cut from those papers. And the little galah, of course, came from the cut apart sheet, which is here. So that's where all the cut outs have come. And this was just a piece of paper that was left with a bit of the wire. So you just need to find that on one of your sheets or supplement it with one of the other sheets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 2 top cards, which are these 2. I'll bring them over. These 2 cards here, because they are going to be sitting like this. Now these cards here came from this top piece where you've got your book pages from, for cards 7 and 6, and it's up the top here, and you just cut a 6x4 and cut it into half, and you will end up with, if I take these off, you can actually see it is the one piece, and I've just cut it in half. So we will get stuck into this now. I've lost one of the dates on my desk somewhere. There it is there. Okay, let's do this. Now I'm just going to edge both my cards in brown. Now what I want to do is I want to edge this card, the top, and the 2 sides. Same, you do the side and the bottom. I will also do my little labels. Sorry, I should have done this before I started this video, so you didn't have to watch me doing this sort of stuff. And very quickly just gunge up that one, and I'll do it with my flowers to get any little edges off. Okay, done. I normally do this off of video. Okay, so get off of there. Okay. Now the best way of doing this is to actually get your sheet. Now the reason why I didn't want to edge that, I want this to look like one complete card. Now I am going to do some stitching on the top. Just do a bit of stitching on the side there as well. Okay, now this one just had the little galah up the top. I've put the little ticket so it looks like it's butting up to the other ticket. and put the other one like that. And then I will have the date. Then this one, I'm just going to pop that over the top of the leaves so that is draped, and then I will put the birthday down the bottom and the little word like that. So I'm just going to stick it all down now. I've actually got it sort of placed. So you could omit one of these and just do your olive green with your black mat, and then pop your 3x4 photograph in place. Sometimes I have to change the format up to work with what you have. Just put the glue down on this, get it well and truly stuck. And then just put the wording there. And this way, when you put it into your album, it will actually look like it's one continuous 6x4 card, even though it's in your 3x4 pocket, like that. So there's two of the cards done. Now the photograph one, which most of you would just have your black photograph, I've just added a sheet of the paper, the adore, and I'm going to black these out. I've just popped this card all together very quickly. I've just got some of the chevrons with the adore with my photograph on there, and that will be going here. And as I said, you could have your ordinary 3x4 photographs in these two with your olive backing paper. Now this is one of the eye candy cards. Now I've just cut from that yellowy paper here. So I've just done a 3x4, and as I said, this came from the sheet that has the blue on the back, which you've cut other cards out from. So this one is going straight down the bottom. Now I didn't want to darken this because I wanted it to actually pop out of the page. And then what's going to happen now is I wanted the hessian at the back, so I've cut an inch piece by 4 inches and then just stripped it all down and cut a bit off so it just fits into that square. Now we have to glue that once again. I'll put plenty of glue on there. Just pop that down the bottom there, just to add a bit of texture. And then this one here will go here. Now as you can see, that is flapping in the breeze. So what I would do there is I would put a little bit of the foam tape just at the top of that, just to raise it up a little bit so it doesn't sort of bend. Like that. And then at the bottom, to hide that, I want this on top. Now the same is going to happen here. Just grab a bit of foam tape, just a tiny bit, and stick it on the top so it's not waving in the breeze. So we take our foam tape off. Mainly because I didn't want the gum tree there. So I'm going to stick that right into the center. Like that. And if it's sticking up a bit, just put a little bit of glue to get it to really stick down. And put some glue on this one. There we have our bottom card like that, and I am going to put, once again, probably should have done this before I stuck everything down. Okay. Just put everything down in its spot. There we have our layout finished, and I'll give a demonstration on how I actually load these into my folders for you. Because I've used the same system as my other page, it isn't going to follow with my next page that lies underneath. If you were doing your album chronically, you would then make your next layout match this format and then change it to your landscape on the next one. But this is a page which I am adding into my album that wasn't in there before. So I have to make this fit into what I've already got in my album. So most times when you have your D-ring albums, you will get these with a white sheet of paper. So I always keep them because it's handy for when I do this. So what I tend to do is I just tape my photos down onto this sheet and I stick them down, and then I will go to the next one above and I do this whole process. So then I will stick my next, and I butt them virtually up. And then you just follow through and you will stick all of those photographs down. Now the other page in your album, you will do exactly the same on another sheet. So you have two sheets of white paper. You don't put them on back to back on these sheets. Here's the finished layout once all our cards are all finished and laid out in the order and put into their folders. So I do hope that you enjoyed this process video, and don't forget to subscribe and like my channel, because then you will be informed when I've got my next one up for you to have a look at. So hopefully you can come back and check me out for my next layout. So until then, keep crafting. Bye.